Hey everybody, this is not a video about the Super Bowl, but today is Super Bowl Sunday 2022. The teams playing are the Bengals and the Rams. I don't normally watch football. I have watched a couple Super Bowls in recent years because the Chiefs were in it, and I went to high school in Kansas City, Missouri. Actually, I went to Raytown High School, but Raytown is a suburb of Kansas City. I have no preference as to who wins, but sure, largely I'm watching for the commercials. The commercials are, they are a unique glimpse into the corporate zeitgeist. And it's sometimes tenuous connection to the larger zeitgeist. But something I've noticed about football games, when I watch one, like I watched the fourth quarter of one a few weeks ago with my brother, because my brother is into football, and I don't remember who was playing. Yeah, it's not coming to me. But, even like not knowing any of the players, not knowing, not having a preference as to which team to root for, I still found it rather engaging. Like I'm not privy to not privy, it's not like they're secrets. I'm just not knowledgeable about all the minutia in terms of the rules and, the weird conferences that the refs get up to and, the penalties and whatnot that they impose. That's all opaque to me, but just the confrontation, the athleticism, I understand the first down, fourth down thing. So, I know enough about the game that I can get caught up in the anticipation and, the tension and the anxiety of it. And it's exciting. I can see, if I had a peer group of people that I bonded with over football, I could be a part of that. I could see myself being a part of that. It's just, the circumstances of my life are such that I don't have that. So why am I sitting in my truck on the warmest part of a cold day, drinking beer and jabbering into a phone? Well, it's about the book, the audiobook, The Decadence Society by Ross Douthat. I don't remember the full title, but I'll put it up here on screen. And I'm re-listening to it. So for me, when I get a nonfiction book on audio, the first listen is basically an audition. It's like, is this a good book? Is this something I'm really interested in? If it really catches me, then I'll listen to it again. And if after the second listen, I'm thinking of going back for a third listen, well, that's when I look for a copy of the text, which then maybe I probably will never open, but I'll have it on hand just in case something comes to mind. I'm like, hey, I'd like to quote that Ross Douthat book. Let's see, and then I can read the chapter headings or whatever. But in the chapter that I've just recently listened to, just over the last hour or so, as I was playing Minecraft, I'll probably have to stop playing Minecraft because Mojang's telling me that eventually, if I get in March, I'm not associated with Minecraft, I'm associated with Microsoft, which is, there's one more thing Microsoft doing. Or Microsoft. Or Minecraft. This is my first beer, by the way. I'm not drunk. Just scatterbrained. But this is all kind of germane to the topic of decadence. Not decadence in the stereotypical sense of lasciviousness or laziness or lack of industry or lack of self-discipline, but decadence in the sense of decay, in the sense of not being what you were, not being at the same level that you had been before, and not being higher, being lower. And in the chapter that I just finished listening to, and I say just, maybe an hour ago, Douthat is talking about the possibility of sustainable decadence. Because decadence, if you think of decadence as a decline, as a falling off from a previous high, that seems like an event, right? It doesn't seem like a steady state that you can be in. But Douthat says, yeah, it can be a steady state. And he was talking about some of the elements that lend longevity to decadence. And some of them are, well, he talks about pornography, and he repeatedly comes back to the fact that young people today are having less sex in general than young people in previous generations. Certainly less sex than, my Randy Gen X cohort had. And he lays some of this at the feet of pornography. Not that pornography, not that he's, not that he's channeling Andrea Dworkin or Pat Robertson or something on the topic of porn, but just saying that, the feminists, they claim that porn desensitized men to normal sexual stimuli, and their conclusion was, therefore, they would then go out into the world and try to enact the violent fantasies depicted in pornography on real women. When in fact, what has turned out is that as people become, mostly men, but men and women, become desensitized to the normal stimulation that would get people aroused, just the presence of a partner who seems to be willing, maybe the touch of skin on skin, as the sensitivity to that has been dulled by, very extreme images and role playing and, just the extremes of porn that the internet makes possible, instead of going out into the world and trying to recreate, those extremes in reality, what most people are doing is just forgetting about real sex entirely and just sticking with porn. And he talks about video games as well, about how, the male participation rate in the workforce is alarmingly low. But Dothit, relays the wisdom of ages past, that, the devil will find work for idle hands to do, particularly the idle hands of young men. Old men in positions of power and influence who have property and access to, desirable females, they fear the strength and the willingness to take risks of the young man. And wow, pornography and video games really soaks up that excess male energy and deals with it better than war, which was, an outlet for getting rid of the excess young male anxiety and tension and propensity to act out. That was the ancient solution to the excess young male problem, was war. The current solution is pornography, video games, and drugs. And the drugs of today, sure, we've got fentanyl, and, fentanyl added to more than just opiates. Fentanyl added to things like psychedelics. Anything that can come in a white powder, you can put in a little fentanyl and kill a certain percentage of your users, but also give the survivors, an unexpected extra zing, to the high that they were expecting. And different ages call for different solutions, different strategies, different drugs. I've talked a few times on my podcast with David J. Blacker. He's the author of a few different books, and he's mostly talking about labor. And he describes the United States in most of the 20th century, like up until the early 70s, as being the all-hands-on-deck phase of capitalism. We need everybody's labor. So no slacking is allowed. Get up off the goddamn couch and get to work, you fucking slacker. But now we don't need as much work done, particularly not male work, not physical work. That's largely been automated or shipped off to places where, laboring bodies labor for much less money. And so now, instead of being in the all hands on deck phase of capitalism, we've entered into the elimination phase. It's like we've got too many workers, too many people with expectations about their lives that can't be fulfilled. We need some way to diffuse that. And, modern warfare makes it impractical to try to kill off the excess young men in war. So you sedate them with video games and pornography and drugs like opiates and whatnot. But really the king drug for our age is marijuana. You can smoke weed and everything isn't better. You don't necessarily forget that things suck, but at the same time, you're not going to do anything about it. You're just going to kick back and get contemplative or just get fuzzy-headed. And like me, if I get really high, I can't finish sentences, or I can finish sentences because even though I don't remember how the sentence started, there's a part of my brain that understands, on a syntactic level, that understands how sentences are constructed. And I can't remember how the sentence started or what my intended conclusion was, but I can figure out, something that makes sense given the last 4 or 5 words that I just said, which I can remember. Kind of like GPT-3. That's me when I'm high, really high. But here I am sitting in my truck, or in my mother's truck, in rural Arkansas. Arkansas is a hardcore red state. Hardcore red state. And yet, medical marijuana is a thing here. And at the end of this road, I mean, this road that runs right past the truck that I'm sitting in, is an indoor marijuana farm. Every day at about 6:30 in the morning, a caravan of cars passes by the house and goes down the road. They're going to work at the pot farm. And in mid-afternoon, that same caravan of cars passes by going the other way because they're off work. Now, Arkansas is one of those states where, yeah, they didn't want to miss out on the money for the legal medical weed, but they're still going to hammer the miscreants who use it recreationally. You know, if you don't have the wherewithal and the connections and the good sense to go and get yourself a prescription, which is to say, go and malinger, please put a medical diagnosis on me wanting to get high. If you don't do that, if you just take matters into your own hands and score some weed and smoke it, well, Arkansas they will punish you harshly. It's not Singapore. You're not going to get killed, but you might go to jail. You might go to prison. And, you'll certainly then be a felon, a convicted felon, can't own a gun, can't vote forever. Arkansas is really, really harsh. They're really into this super tough love, retributive justice. But Arkansas is the outlier. Arkansas is the laggard. Nationally, we don't need so much labor. We're not willing to kill everybody off just yet who isn't gainfully employed. And we need people to stay home and be quiet and don't complain. And man, there's no better combination really to achieve that than marijuana, pornography, video games, and, for older people like me, just straight up TV. But even me, I told you I was playing Minecraft earlier. I'm going to watch the Super Bowl later. All right. Before I go, let me ask you a question. The other day, I did what amounted to a scripted video, which I then turned into an audiogram, which is to say, I tried to turn it into an audiogram. When I got the final product back from the service that supposedly creates the audiogram wasn't there. But still, I spent hours on a video when often I spend, however many minutes it takes for me to record the thing, plus another half hour to edit and upload. It's a pretty low effort activity compared to, say, making a podcast. And sometimes the scripted videos do really well, and sometimes they do the same as just the off-the-cuff blathering into the cell phone videos, and sometimes they do worse than the off-the-cuff blathering into the cell phone videos. So what do you prefer? What would you like to see? So, which is to say comment, because commenting is good. It counts as engagement. Supposedly, supposedly it is a sacrifice that pleases the algorithm. All right. And of course, hit like. More importantly, though, comment. Please comment. Talk to you soon.